I'm Andrew, and this is Suzanne. Our surname is Puccetti, and we're originally from Adelaide, and we've lived in Tasmania for 10 years.
And we're at Carrick Mill Antiques.
Carrick Mill Antiques in the beautiful Meander Valley, and yes, we're just here on Meander Valley Road.
What got you into antiques? What do you love about antiques?
I think we love the history of all the different things that we see, and you start to think about all the different stories that are behind just different objects.
Yeah, every object has a history, and different people have owned that thing, and you can sometimes get a sense of the past through what you deal in, and I enjoy the people who come into the shop who have similar feelings and are looking for something unusual and interesting.
The mill itself has quite a bit of history. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yes, certainly. It was built in 1846 using convict labor, as was done in the day. Built by a man named William Bryan, who was one of the big landowners in the district. And it was built as a flour mill. And in the day, it used to grind flour that went throughout the Australian colonies and supported, rumor has it that it supported Sydney through one of their drought years. Just from the flour of this mill kept the colony of New South Wales alive. That's one of the rumors, because this area used to be a very big wheat production area. And so 17,000 bushels of grain used to be stored in the building at one time. So it was actually quite a big business in the Meander Valley. It was certainly the largest business in Carrick for many years. And it was a successful business for about 80 years. And then 1929 flood, as I said, put it out of business. And it was an empty building for 50 years after that.
And you guys took it over as a project about 10 years ago, so was that about 2016?
Yeah, that's right. Yes, we moved in 2016 and started the restoration. It was in much need of restoration. And we built our home into the two upper floors, and the second floor is now our storage area, and the ground floor is our shop, which is perfect because we only have to go downstairs to commute to work.
Nice and easy, no traffic.
Yeah, no traffic.
So the mill was 5 stories?
Yes.
And then the basement.
The previous owners filled in a cellar, unfortunately. And the rumor is that the lower floor, ground floor, had been subject to dampness over the years and had started rotting. But instead of replacing the rotting timbers and reconstituting the floor, they just filled in the cellar and with the concrete over it, and so it doesn't exist anymore, which we find quite sad, actually.
How big is the grounds here? You mentioned the space at the back.
The property used to be 10 acres, but previous owners subdivided it into 7 acre and a 3 acre property. The 3 acres is the property that the mill stands on today, and there's also a historic cottage behind the mill. That's part of the property. The other 7 acre had the original barn, but 3 acres is enough for us to keep us busy forever.
Absolutely. Can you talk a bit about some of the antiques that you sell, the variety?
Okay. Yeah, we sell anything except nuclear waste. But no, seriously, we try and have as broad a range of antiques and collectibles as a small shop can have, and I think we do it very well, in as much as just about every customer who comes through the door, if they haven't been in the shop before, they're absolutely awestruck by the variety and depth of what we sell, and our prices are so good, it's rare for someone to leave without buying something. I think they're quite I think we punch well above our weight as a small business in Tasmania.
You mentioned that you also sell some things online.
Yes, we have an online business through Etsy, and we ship goods all over the world from our little hamlet here in Tasmania. It's a fun aspect of our business, really. because the shop's only open 3 days a week, we spend the other 4 days a week working on our online business. So we're kept pretty busy, and it's fun.
It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday you're open?
That's right. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 11 to 5.
How do you come across the things that you sell?
Well, we mostly
We've been
buy
collecting.
auctions.
We've been collecting for
A long time.
30 years, something like that, and a lot of it is our just personal collecting. We bought from auctions, we bought from people over the counter, we buy things all over the place. Probably slowing down a little bit in our purchasing, in as much as the shop is bursting at the seams. But no, that's a fun aspect of being in business, and as well as dealing with customers who feel similar to us mindset.
And have you come across any particularly memorable or unusual things in your time?
Yeah, that's hard to answer. Everything has a history, and everything, we only like to buy things that are of interest to ourselves and interest that we think will interest other people.
Some of the probably most interesting things almost have been some of the ephemera that we come across.
Yeah. Things made of paper that were brought up for a short time throughout history, like newspapers is an example of an item of ephemera. Like a newspaper from 1872 would have interesting bits of history in it, and advertising, and just the social mores of the day are best expressed in something that happened or occurred at that time. Movie handbills from the 1920s, or
Theatre programs for
or my favorite is old postcards from the early 20th century, which picture postcards were highly collected back in the day. Grandparents, great-grandparents used to have books full of old postcards, and if they were sent through the post, not only would they have a stamp, a contemporaneous stamp, but they'd also have a little bit of, usually banal, but sometimes interesting writing. Went to see the Essendon play at the Oval today, and things like that are just very much of the time. So I find postcard particularly a good insight and a little window into the past.
Do you have a favourite piece?
Antique.
Have you? I guess I imagine you come across things over time, and I would imagine there might be one or two things that you just go, wow, this is just something quite special to me.
We're very fortunate, Matt. We have so many lovely things, and just being in the business allows you to see the full range of things that are available. And I've always thought that secondhand is the way to go, rather than buy something new and cheap from made in China or wherever. When you contrast the quality of things made in England or Australia in the past, there really is no comparison. And when you think you can buy something antique cheaper than the modern equivalent, why would you buy something modern? It really doesn't make sense. There's just so many examples I could give to you. Furniture, porcelain,
silver plates,
silver plated ware, just about anything that has survived from 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 150 years ago. The quality is almost always better, and not only do you get better quality, you usually get it at a much cheaper price, and you also have the history of that object in continuity. You have become the new owner of this old object, which may last you for generations through your family. You can pass it on with knowledge that you've not only avoided buying something new and causing that resource to be taken from the earth, but you've just been one of the line of continuity of this particular object. I think it's fascinating.
You've been undergoing renovations. Have they finished now?
Yes,
The
they're
exterior
finished.
side. Can you talk a little bit about what was involved on those renovations?
From the beginning, when we bought this property, it needed a lot of work. The previous owners had done a lot of work, and thank goodness the structure itself was sound. There wasn't any issues about cracking walls or floors in danger of collapse. There was nothing like that. But there was a lot of cosmetic things that needed doing. And as I said, possums had got into the building and caused lots of damage. And the building had never been used as a residence prior to our moving in. So there was a lot of work that was done initially to turn the upper floors into a residence for us. And once that was accomplished, then I had to consider the exterior of the building, and the grounds has got away from previous owners and were very overgrown. Although there was a lot of fine plants still in the ground, it just needed de-weeding. That's been a constant process here in Tasmania. You never stop weeding. As for the exterior of the building, a previous owner had painted the trim pink, and it was known as a mill with pink windows and trim. And I never liked that color for this building. I don't think it worked, and quite frankly, even the pink had faded over the years, so it looked sad and not historic. So anyway, early this year, I thought this is the year we're going to do the outside. I hired scaffolding, and they went around the building one side at a time with the scaffolding, and I got up there and had to do a lot of work around the eaves where holes had never been properly filled in, and that's what was letting possums and birds and other vermin into the building around the eaves. And there's a lot of work to do with painting and filling in cracks and so on the outside of the building. But it took me 4 months, 1 month each side, and I've accomplished the goal. And it looks really, I think it looks very much its heritage listed appeal. It looks like the mill should have looked, I always thought. And it took me a while to pick the right color for the trim, but we settled on what's called rust. Okay. And the rust seems to go with the industrial feel of the building, because it has always been, you have to understand, the mill has always been an industrial building, even though it's been used for many different things over the years. So its industrial heritage is safe, I think, to say. We won't ever impinge on what remains of the industrial heritage of this building.
And to put it into perspective, it's 4 stories up, and it's not a compact 4 stories. It's quite a substantial size building.
Yeah,
so
it
getting
is.
up on the scaffolding, it sounds to me like you said quite a cracking pace. 1 month on each side.
I spent every day up on the scaffolding doing what had to be done. I'm not a tradesman, but I have discovered rudimentary skills that most blokes can do if they set their mind to it. And it's always been my goal to restore an historic building. And it's a privilege, I think, for me to have a building like this under my care, because as you get older, you realize you're just a custodian for what you own. And this is a very fine building to be custodian of, if you know what I mean. I know I mangled English there, but the fact is that not many people get the chance to own and love and restore a heritage building, and it's been a privilege for me to do that.
Do you know where your customers who visit, where do they come from? Are they often local? Are they from other parts of the country?
We think about that a lot, of course. When you're in business, you have to understand who your customers are and where they're from and what they think.
Before the pandemic, we obviously had a lot more international visitors, which hasn't really even got back to that.
No, it hasn't fully recovered the international tourism here yet. I think it's starting, and this summer could be the change. But I would say before the pandemic, it was about 50% local, maybe 30% interstate, and 20% international. Now it's about 60-70% local and about 20% interstate. No, maybe not. Something like that. 60% local, 20% interstate, and 10%. I'm getting confused with myself, but slightly less international and about the same state and local business.
Obviously lots of caravanners and people just visiting
Yeah.
the island, driving around, and often stop because the building catches their eye and they can't resist.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
yeah. It's a lot of people are intrigued by Tasmanian history, and when they see a substantial historic building like this, they want to explore further, and we try and get them to do that.
What are your plans from here?
That's a good question. Hopefully just to maintain business and go into the future for as long as we possibly can. No one lives forever, but we'll do our best. It'd be nice to think we could still be going 30 years hence. But no, we have no...
About that.
She's a bit less enthusiastic for working into her 90s than I am, but I love what I do, so why would you want to stop? It's as simple as that. Only God can stop me now.
And what is your favourite part of the Meander Valley?
Where we live. But I love the whole Meander Valley. It's such a beautiful place. Having lived interstate and so on.
We have, 3 historic churches in the area. We go to our own little St Andrews here in Carrick, and Hagley has a lovely
church there, and
St
there's
Mary's.
one at Westbury as well. So there's many fine churches in the valley, and it's just so, I guess quaint might be the right word for it, but this part of the world is very reminiscent of England as it was 100 years ago, basically. And a lot of foreign tourists who come here often say that reminds them of England of old, and if you look around, you'll see so much that reminds you of old England. There's the hedgerows, there's the trees native to that part of the world, just the whole feel of it. And the buildings, and the historic buildings are all built in the English manner of one form or another. So if you close your eyes and then open them, hang on, we could be in England or Ireland now, and you wouldn't know the difference. But
And the community is very good. We've got a small town of Longford, sort of 12 minutes, I think, in one direction, and then we've got Westbury in the other direction that are both lovely communities with markets once a month, and so we're pretty
Things going on.
Yes, things going on.
yeah, Carrick as a village is growing quite quickly. There's a lot of development going on in the back blocks. You can't really see it from the main road, but apparently the population has nearly doubled in the 10 years that we've lived here. But it doesn't feel that way. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of rapidly burgeoning suburbs in Tasmania and around the mainland. But Carrick is growing quickly because it's very close to Launceston, and a lot of people can easily commute into the city. It only takes 15 minutes. So it's growing quite quickly. That doesn't bother us particularly. There's so much space here, and so much a rural area, and yet you're so close to the city, so it's really the perfect place to reside.